Welcome to Faith, Purpose, and Freedom, the podcast where we grow together in faith, walk boldly in purpose, and create freedom in every area of our lives. This is your host, Kayla Rose. I need you to lean in today because this episode may be one that changes how you see your mind, your healing, your past, and even your future. Today, we're talking about mindset, brain development, trauma, healing, neuroplasticity, and the renewing power of God. This is where science meets scripture. This is where we stop calling ourselves broken and start understanding exactly what happened, how we got there, and how we can change it all. This is where we stop shaming ourselves for survival patterns and begin learning how to heal them. Because I know what it feels like to spend years burying yourself beneath the pain, beneath the trauma, and struggling to forgive yourself and forgive others. I know what it feels like to dig holes with your own choices. I know what it feels like to carry pain from things that were never truly your fault. I know what it feels like to live in chaos so long that peace feels unfamiliar. You almost don't even know how to live in peace because you're so used to your brain being everywhere and running in 30 different directions every day. But I also know what it feels like when God reaches into the pit and pulls you out. He did it for me, and if He can renew my mind, heal my heart, and restore my peace, I know that He can do it for you. So let's begin. Our anchor scripture today is Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Again, do not conform to the pattern of this world. Do not look at this world and think that that's where you're stuck. Do not look at your circumstances and think that you're just stuck. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Allow God to renew your mind. Allow yourself to heal. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Because in the end, you're only doing it for your peace. This verse is one of the clearest biblical pictures of neuroplasticity. So science tells us the brain changes through repetition, experience, and focused attention. It's a process called neuroplasticity, meaning the brain can recognize itself by forming and strengthening new neural pathways. Your brain is constantly creating new neural pathways. So when we release what's stuck in our subconscious brain, we can now start healing our neural pathways. When God says renew your mind, He's giving us a spiritual truth that aligns with neurological reality. Science and scripture meeting right in the middle. Your thoughts create pathways. So if you're constantly thinking negative, you're going to create negative pathways that are going to lead into chaos and more trauma in your life. It makes you react when sometimes we don't need to react. Sometimes we just need to be at peace. And then if you're constantly thinking positive, I have this, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, instead of the I'm never going to be able to do that, I can't do it. You're going to create positive pathways when you're going, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13 changed my life. I can remember jogging one time and I was like, oh, I'm exhausted. I'm going to fall over. Like, I'm not going to survive this. And I just kept saying in my head, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I actually began running faster. So your thoughts create pathways and your habits reinforce those pathways. Your emotions will strengthen them, and your repeated reactions make them automatic. So if you have a habit of reacting negatively anytime something doesn't go the way you think it should go, now your emotions are also affected because you're angry or you're frustrated or whatever that emotion might be. So you have a bad habit, you have a negative emotion and you repeat these actions constantly, creating negative pathways. If we change that and our habits are positive habits, and we have a habit of being faithful, and we have a habit of praying when things don't go right, and our emotions don't get destroyed, and we continue staying hopeful, we are now going to create positive pathways. And that is neuroplasticity. That is renewing our mind, renewing our thoughts. Let's look at King David. I mean, he was just a little boy and nobody wanted to go fight the giants, but here he was like, hey, I'll do it. I got faith. Have the faith of King David. Like, have the faith of that little boy going, I will do it. And God carried him through because his neural pathways were in a positive mindset. Let's be like that. Healing is possible. Transformation's possible. Change is possible. Let's talk about what happens in the brain and why our brain gets stuck. So the brain is designed for adaptation. Its job is not happiness first. Its job is always going to be survival first. If you grew up around chaos, inconsistency, fear, abandonment, criticism, addiction, yelling, unpredictability, emotional neglect, your brain likely learned to survive before it ever learned this is safe. So you're just stuck in survival. Everything you do in life is stuck in survival. I have been there. I still struggle with trying to not be there. Early caregiving and stress strongly shapes the circuits for emotion regulation, especially in our prefrontal cortex, sorry. These systems begin wiring rapidly in the first few years of our life, and they mature throughout our adolescence and adulthood. So throughout your teenage years and your adulthood, these systems are maturing. However, when early on, whether it be from parents, grandparents, I have seen this a lot with children who have been in and out of foster care. Through ministry, I get to be an interaction with a lot of our youth, and I just get to witness these things. I have had children come to my home who maybe their parents were struggling with addiction, but that means like emotionally they never hit milestones. They never felt safe, and maybe their parents didn't mean to make them feel unsafe, but they just never felt safe because, well, life was a struggle and they were always just like in survival. Is there going to be food for me to eat today? Am I going to be able to sleep peacefully? Is mom or dad going to be here when I wake up? There's just so many things. And I think this is why a lot of people overreact really quick. They shut down emotionally. They just won't even tell you about their emotions. Sometimes, people just don't feel that they're allowed to have emotions. And we're all allowed to have emotions. We all have emotions. We are human. We have emotions. But whenever your emotions are shut down your whole life, you eventually don't feel safe to share emotions or tell anybody. And sometimes it just causes you to go into complete chaos. Or you might just go react angrily because you don't feel like you're allowed to actually have emotions. Some people panic under pressure, or they freeze in decision making. It's really hard for them to make a decision because they want to keep everybody else happy. So they don't know how to make a decision for themselves. This is something I struggled with a lot. They struggle to focus and stay focused. And it's really hard whenever you're struggling with focus to reach your goals or the vision you have for your life. I struggled with this a lot. They sabotage healthy relationships because they fear a healthy relationship because they never had a healthy relationship. How can you possibly not fear a healthy relationship when you've never even had one? They create chaos when life gets peaceful. When life's peaceful, they don't know how to survive in it. So why or how would they? So they almost have to have chaos because how do you be in peace whenever you've never had peace? Peace almost seems like chaos. The brain learned what felt necessary. It doesn't make you broken, it makes you adapted. And what was adapted can be rewired. And then we have our brain development milestones and why missing them actually matters. There are a lot of emotional and neurological milestones that every child needs: secure attachment, safety, predictable caregiving, emotional validation, co regulation, trust, belonging, correction with love, encouragement, identify formation or identity formation, I apologize, and healthy boundaries. So when I read from this list, I think, oh, wow, you know, there's a lot of times in our lives that, I know for me growing up, there weren't always healthy boundaries. I watched my mom be abused. And so when you watch her accept that pain, and how do I ever know to set healthy boundaries for myself? And a lot of children are dealing with that. They're seeing, domestic situations. They don't understand, like, this is between mom and dad. So is this normal? Um, Belonging. If you don't feel like you belong, you're not going to feel like you belong anywhere in life. You can't trust the people you're supposed to trust most in life and feel safe with them and know that they're always going to show up and they're always going to be there and they're going to validate your emotions. Wow. So when we look at this, a lot of us are probably going, oh crap. Well, I went through that and went through that and went through that. Well, no wonder my life was chaos. These early experiences help children develop and help with self regulation, trust, and honestly help them execute throughout their lives. When these milestones are repeatedly missed, the nervous system stays on alert and people end up in fight or flight. This becomes normal. Overthinking increases, impulsive choices rise, fear based reactions become their default, and self worth gets distorted. Children become adults who say, why do I always do this? Why do I know better but still repeat it? Why does peace make me uncomfortable? Because chaos becomes familiar. The brain always chooses familiar over unfamiliar, even if familiar hurts. This is why chaos will break loose later in life. This is where so many people need freedom. Chaos later in life is often old wiring meeting new circumstances. A healthy relationship may feel unsafe because the brain learned love equals inconsistency. A peaceful business season may feel threatening because your body learned productivity through stress. A promotion may trigger fear because your identity never fully attached to your worth. The prefrontal cortex is the part that's responsible for planning, focus, reasoning, and emotional control. And it matures slowly over time, while threat systems often become highly efficient under chronic stress. This means under stress, people can lose access to the thinking skills they need the most. And that's why people procrastinate or lash out. They feel numb, they isolate themselves, they find themselves on their phones just scrolling. They avoid doing things they don't want to do, and they sabotage themselves and their lives. It's not because they lack desire. It isn't because old neural roads are still the fastest route. The same brain that learned fear can learn peace. The same mind that rehearsed shame can rehearse truth. The same pathways that carried chaos can now carry healing. That's neuroplasticity, guys. New thoughts create new pathways. Repeated truth strengthens them. Repeated lies weaken them. This is why healing is repetition. Prayer repeated, peace repeated, healthy choices repeated, boundaries repeated, gratitude repeated, truth repeated. The new path starts tiny, but keep walking it. The path gets wider, the old path grows over. That's both science and sanctification. Scripture will renew your mind. Let's go through a few. I have a few that I like. These are my personal ones. You may find some that you love. But repeating scripture, having them written down and reading it is helpful. And it's helpful to children too. Philippians 4:8. Think on whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable. This is attention training. The brain changes based on what receives repeated focus. 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. A sound mind is not perfection. It is a trained mind. And then we have Isaiah 26, verse 3. He will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on him. Peace is not passive, peace is practiced focus. I continue to focus myself on God. I pray before I do a podcast. I pray before I work on my website. I pray at the beginning of my day. There are times when my children are driving me insane and I pray. Make God the CEO of your life. I want you to become aware. I want you to just sit back and think, what stories keep replaying in your head? Do you say, I'm not enough, I always mess up, nothing good lasts? Find that pattern, but then turn it around. I am enough. I always make things well. The things that don't last is God moving me to a better position, taking me to a better place. His plans for you are always good. That doesn't mean they always feel good, and that's okay. But his plans for you are always good. It's okay to shut doors, walk through that door, and go to the other side because God has a plan. He has something bigger, He has something brighter, He has something better for you. Trust Him. Take a breath. Pray, journal, go for a walk, move your body. Replace lies with scripture. Instead of I'm stuck, it becomes I am being renewed. Instead of I ruin everything, it becomes God is restoring what was broken. Repeat it until it feels natural. Healing is holy redemption. I want to leave this with my heart. God pulled me out of a hole I spent years helping dig. I laid in my kitchen one night, ready to take my life, ready to end it all. God pulled me out of that hole. How do I know? For some reason, I dialed a church's phone number at 1 a.m. after I left a bar working the last shift I had ever worked there. There's no way it wasn't God. A man answered the phone. The last thing he said to me is, Kayla, if you wanted to take your life, I don't think you would have made this call tonight. That night, I downloaded the Holy Bible app on my phone. And every day since then, I still do my morning prayer, my morning scripture. Some of it was pain from others that dug me there. Some of it was my own poor choices. And some of it was old wounds that were running the show. The abandonment I felt from my father, the pain I had felt through life, the situations I had experienced. But God, He renewed my mind. He taught me that what I called brokenness was often just survival. He taught me that chaos was learned. He taught me that peace could also be learned. And now I live in a peace I once thought was impossible. Hear me. You're not too far gone. Your brain is not fixed in fear. Your story is not over. Your healing is not behind you. God designed your mind with the ability to change. That means change your future. That means your future does not have to look like your past, guys. One thought at a time, one prayer at a time, one repeated truth at a time. You can rewire your mind, and with God, you can rebuild your entire life. The climb is not easy. The climb is worth it. and I'm climbing with you. God bless you all.